And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's episode 107 of Keepin It Rio. And today's episode is going to be amazing. It's going to be highly energetic, I can assure you, because my special guest today, Johnny Ortiz, is in the house. Johnny, how you doing, bud?
Man, I am doing fantastic.
I love it. I love it. Where are you coming at us from today? What's your current location?
So I am in the booming metropolis of Tyler, Texas. Rose capital of the world, they say.
Indeed, it is Rose City. I know that for a fact. I've been in Tyler many times. And as a matter of fact, you and I met there just last Thursday as a part of a conference that was there held by our friends at K Socialized Media, who you see up here in the top right-hand corner. Clint and Leanne put on a great conference.
Yeah, man, they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and Johnny, you were one of the keynote speakers there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with it? You know, how did it all come about? I know that you guys have been friends for a long time, but how did all that stuff develop, and what was your experience?
Yeah, so I tell people a lot of times that, you know, what I do is not necessarily who I am. My position, my day job, I call it, my Clark Kent job, is a mortgage loan originator. I do home mortgages for now Cardinal Financial. This is my first interview in the new shirt, in the new logo, so to speak. And
me too.
But
hey, I got my new logo up today.
I love it. So what I am is a child of God, and our paths with Leanne and Clint crossed a couple different ways. We were in a men's Bible study together, and then with Clint, and then we ended up crossing paths with Leanne and then JoJo there at ASCP Roofing. I've been to a couple of their meetings that they have there, and I was just curious. And that's really kind of my claim to fame in life, is I'm just curious. I'm just, you know, if I don't know, I'm going to ask. And we put together, and they said, hey, why don't you come do a meeting for us? And I went and did a meeting for them. And then she brought this up about the East Texas Growth Conference. And man, I was all in. You see, in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, of all places, Chuck, I decided I joined what's called the Ziglar Legacy Certification. And they only allow X amount of people to come through that because they're very particular about who carries on the legacy of the late, great Mr. Zig Ziglar. And for those of you that don't know him or haven't heard of him, Google him, YouTube him. He will fill you. He was one of those few guys that had that knack and that ability to simplify the complex. And man, when you heard him speak, you want to talk about energy. You thought I was good. This guy was phenomenal. Phenomenal. So, but that's kind of how we crossed paths, and here we are. I got to meet you. We met a lot of awesome people there at the conference.
Absolutely. Some of my best friends were there. Clint, Leanne, Mike Code is my personal mentor. I've known Mike for many years, and my entire association with them was based on him. You know, I got with Clint, Leanne, and JoJo based on my knowledge of Mike, and it was a whole big happy family over there. Outstanding stuff with the Ziglar stuff. I'm a huge fan. For many years when I was here in Texas, I had family in Ohio, and I drive back and forth for Christmas. It was a long 20-hour drive, and I think probably maybe at least half of those trips I spent listening to the Zig Ziglar audiobooks that I had. And that stuff just really, like you said, it inspires you. It's timeless as well. It's not, you know, I don't know that I'm going to ever find myself selling silverware or cookware in a house with a bunch of ladies and you know, doing all that good stuff, but you can utilize all of that, and it's going to be something that'll last forever. So he definitely has a long-lasting legacy, and I think you're a perfect person to, like you said, kind of carry that on and do it with honor, and you know, continue to just do what you're doing. I love it. So
absolutely, thank you.
We got a slight lag. That's why it's confusing me just a little bit. I apologize. We had just a very slight lag, so I'm like. But yeah, you're doing amazing. Tell me a little bit about your experience with the Ziglar Institute, how you got in, and what the process is to get yourself to become a certified, you know, well, I don't know the proper title. I apologize. You know, expert.
You're not even going to believe it, Chuck, if I tell you what happened. So I started in sales at the ripe old age of 19 years old. I'm 46, about to be 47. So that's a few years back, right? And I didn't understand. Matter of fact, I didn't want to do sales. I say I found myself in sales by accident, and I stayed by choice. Because when they first offered me the job, they explained to me that if I didn't sell something, I wasn't going to get paid. And at the time, Chuck, I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. Like, how am I not going to get a paycheck? But I go to work. They're like, well, if you don't sell anything, you don't get paid. I bypassed it. I didn't want to do it, but a friend of mine did. And when he went and saw that he could do it and he was actually having pretty good success at it, I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So I've been in sales for, gosh, 26 plus years. And was one of the first places that the timeshare company sent me to where I got the job was the United Airlines Center in Dallas. And guess who was the keynote speaker?
Oh, goodness.
Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and there
let
was
me
a
guess.
lot of great speakers there. There was a lot of great speakers there. Yeah, there was a lot of great speakers there. You had Colin Powell, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy was there. You had Christopher Reeves was there before he passed away. That tells you how long ago it was. You know, I said earlier that this is my Clark Kent job. He was there. But when Zig Ziglar took the stage, that was next level. The arena was packed, and it seemed like everyone in the audience was just hanging on to his very next word. He was able to captivate the audience. And even though he was the last speaker, check this out, we actually left there more energized than what we were at the break. Something about how he did, and I love what Clint said, that energy, you transfer energy. He did just that. If anybody was ever the Energizer Bunny, that was Mr. Ziglar for sure. And
yes, sir.
during the pandemic, we were really looking at trying to. I wanted to do something. I had gotten to the stage in my life that I wanted to do something different, and I realized that, you know what, because I ended up making my way into the automobile world, that's where I got the bulk of my experience was auto sales and more or less finance management. Well, I couldn't finance if the guys couldn't sell, so I started helping some of the salespeople with the training, the development, the personality skill sets, all that stuff, right? The 8-step selling process or the 13-step selling process, whatever that was for them. And soon enough, I said, you know what? I know John Maxwell. I don't know if you realize that when you start talking, Chuck, your phone is listening to you. And all of a sudden, all these programs started coming through. John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, all these things. Well, I was going to do the John Maxwell certification program. And about that same time, my daughter was telling me that her backpack was torn and she needed a new one. We went to Amazon. This is the funny part. We went to Amazon, looked for a backpack, found one, put it in my cart, didn't purchase it, but just left it there. I hop over to social media, Facebook, and I start scrolling, right? That's a song, scrolling, scrolling down the screen. But what happened was a backpack came across from the Ziglar Corporation. And in that backpack, you got books, tapes, or CDs, tells you how old I am, the CDs, all this material. It's about $297 worth of material. And the backpack was like 99 bucks. So I figured, hey, if I buy the backpack, I'll get the books for free or vice versa. Ordered the backpack. The backpack came in the mail. I went through to get my stuff registered. Just out of pure happenstance, Chuck, I scrolled down to the bottom of that screen, and right there at the very bottom, it says, become a Ziglar Legacy Certified Coach. I said, why not? Hit it. Got the interview. I didn't realize that they were going to do a background check, a credit check. They were going to do a social media check for like, I don't know how many years. Luckily, I've been living on the straight and narrow for a while now. I used to not always. But luckily I was now. But they went back and did a full background check on you. And I got into class 26 of the, I'm really the only Ziglar Legacy certified speaker in this area for the time being. I know by now there's probably another one somewhere, but there's one in Wills Point, not too far from here. But as far as Tyler goes, I think I'm the only one so far. But here I am. And then we get to do this at the East Texas Growth Conference, and I highlighted the Choose to Win, which is actually Tom Ziglar's keynote book, or book that he does a lot of his keynotes from. And I just kind of put my own personal stories into it because it completely changed the way I do life from 2020 going forward. I started doing mortgage loans in 2018, thought I was going to transition into coaching full time. And instead, what happened was it completely transformed how I did mortgage lending, to the point where, man, I was making more money, having more fun, going out there and just doing so much in the community with my nonprofits, um, with just the community in general, the Rotary clubs, the Tyler Evening Toastmasters at the time. And before you know it, I was just giving. That was the instruction that my coach, Tom Ziglar, at the time gave us. That he said, give it away. Go out there and just give, and then just give and just give. And we found out that the law of reciprocity just kicked in. And man, the community, realtors, different places just started giving back to me, right? That whole pressed down, shaken together, and running over business was good. And it hasn't stopped. It's still going.
That's awesome. I mean,
Sorry
what an
about that,
amazing
Mike.
story. No, what an amazing story, though. Your backpack is what started the entire thing. And that to me is just, that's the way that it should be, right? Every story that we have that's our personal story should have some kind of crazy little quirk like that. And I've got a ton of them in my story, but that's so cool. You get in and now you're a certified coach. You are doing a lot of events in the community. What exactly, what are you doing in the community as far as, going out speaking, teaching people, giving back? You just mentioned some nonprofits. What's going on with that?
Mm-hmm. So the big thing that I do, there's it's called the Literacy Council of Tyler, and they have this entrepreneur class that they're helping entrepreneurs learn English. And once they've gone through their courses, I'm one of the last ones that they come to. And I last year I taught on just life skills, right? How life just happens to you. This past week we talked about the finances and loans and banking, because that's kind of my little area of expertise now. We talked about credit. We talked about, what it is to have good credit, how to establish good credit, how to keep from having bad credit. If you have bad credit, how to fix that, how to be able to get to the point where you can have good credit again. Because in 2007, Chuck, and this is just me being me, right? Just me being transparent. What happened was 2007 came, it was great. 2008 hit, my life was turned upside down. I went from making really good money to not making so good money. The motorcycle had to go. The sports car had to go. My wife's brand new Tahoe I bought for her back in 2005, 2006. It had to go. We sold it all. I mean, literally, my kids thought they were next. We were selling everything because we couldn't pay our bills. My good credit score hit the tank. It went sub 600. It went 540, 550. Chase wasn't getting paid. The credit cards weren't getting paid. Man, 2008 and 2009 took their toll. We were about 3 months behind on our house. And if it wasn't for a couple, which today's his birthday, matter of fact. So Kevin Prince, happy birthday. Thank you so much. But he came to our house. We explained to him what was going on, and he was able to give us guidance when we really needed it, because we thought we were about to lose our house. And he helped us kind of get back on track. And he basically didn't ask us to pay it back. He just said, pay it forward. And sometimes you need people like that in your life to believe in you, because man, I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I'm starting to get a little choked up just thinking about that. But there are certain defining moments in your life where you know that God's hand is on you, and he's walking with you side by side. And that scripture is so true, right? That he'd never leave you nor forsake you, that he's never going to put more on you than you're able to bear. And all these things started coming to mind. And when that happened, and I was able to get back to even keel, and that's something that Ziglar talks about, right? A lot of times we find ourselves in that survival mode, just trying to keep our head above water, trying to doggy paddle in the sea of life. And sometimes you just need to be that lifeguard that throws out that life preserver to somebody and Kevin Prince was there for me at that moment, and he did that for my wife, my family, and now I want to be that person to do that for somebody else.
Man, what a powerful story. Goodness gracious. I completely respect where you're at. And I'm very grateful that you and I are talking today, because I've been going through a little bit of that myself here recently. It's been a little slow with business and stuff. And I've taken a lot of things that have happened in the last 18 months pretty hard, family members passing away, things not going the way that you're expecting them to go, just, not meeting your own expectations. And a couple of days ago, we decided that we were going to go our separate ways with the roofing business, and I'm going to go do something different. And the thing that's so amazing about this whole thing, Johnny, is you think in that moment, okay, boy, I'm letting people down. And in this case, it was my partners, Clint Koppel, Leanne, and JoJo. And they're amazing people, like I'm beating myself up because, how could I let these guys down? And it's, oh my gosh, I've betrayed my entire world here. But you know what? They were all so understanding, and they all had the same thing. We love you. You're part of our family for life. We want you to be happy doing what you're doing. And to me, that saved my life, I think, to a certain degree. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic or anything like that. I'm not saying, I was at any weird, like super, super, super dark point like that. But you meet people in your life and you realize they were brought for a reason. And the Koppels are definitely that. I have a lot of things in common. Yeah, I have a lot in common with Leanne and Clint and JoJo. And they're the kind of people that have helped me over the last 4 years grow into who I am. And it's just amazing. If I could tell my story about it, that's a story for a completely different day in a podcast episode. But it's the same thing, when you really needed something the most, there were these people that were there for you. And I'll never forget that. I'll never betray that. And, it sounds like you've got the same experience, and I'm going to do the same exact thing you're going to do. I'm looking now to pay it forward. Like you said, I want to find people that I can help. I want to find people that I can make better, that I can instill belief in themselves, and just, do what's right for the world. So thank you for that. It's amazing how things happen. I think our conversation today is a sign from God. So thank you so much for that. And carry on with our story. Yeah, because that's terrific stuff.
Man, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just interesting how everything just happens for a reason, right? It's the Romans 8:28. All things work together for good, right? To them that love God, to them that are called according to His purpose. And I mean, since we're on that, in that vein, my life verse, my favorite verse. If you take the whole Bible and you put one verse to it, there's a lot of good ones out there. Mine just happens to be Jeremiah 29:11, where it says, "I know the plans I have for you," right? Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and the future. And the beautiful part about that scripture is that if you have hope in the future, it gives you power in the present, right? Power to persist, power to keep on going, power to persevere, power to have that resolve that even though things aren't going your way, even though things might not be, exactly as you would have thought they would have gone, that God has a specific plan and a purpose. And whenever it's all said and done, you'll see exactly what He was doing, right? Sometimes we just get to the point where, like, I want it done this way, and that's not the way it was supposed to have been done. It was supposed to have been done this way. But that's what I love about just life, living life on life's terms, not on your terms, because sometimes we can't dictate the cards that we're dealt, right? It's that attitude. Ziglar always said that it's your attitude and not your aptitude that will determine your altitude. And Chuck, I don't know how high heaven is, but I'm not that tall. So I need to get as much altitude as I possibly can. So I do that by having a good attitude, good, bad, or indifferent. I've stopped trying to control those things that I can't control. There's some things that are just going to happen to you that are going to be so far out of your control, and you can't do anything about them. So what? Just chalk it up to, you know what? I can't do anything about it. And you just focus on those things that you can control. And soon enough, those things that you can control start getting bigger and bigger, where the things that you can't control, they don't matter. Your attitude, your prayer life, your devotion, your family, taking care of those core things that make you who you are as a person, as a man, as a human being. And pretty soon, man, you know what? If you didn't get to go do something for somebody else at some point, but your family's taken care of, you're taken care of, your walk with God is getting taken care of, everything else doesn't matter. That's the old the big rock, that illustration of keeping the main thing the main thing. So
yes, sir. I love that. And boy, you really bring some serious energy and some presence to your presentation, even just in our conversation today. You can't help but just be drawn into it. And I love that, because that's how I am. I want to be surrounded by people with positive energy all the time. And you're definitely that, my friend. So thank you for that. I'm happy that we're here. Let me ask you this, okay? You have seen probably and talked to a lot of different people through your stuff that you've done. Do you have any one person in particular that you've met in your life that you've maybe helped, that you saw something in that maybe they didn't see in themselves, and you kind of, grabbed them and said, hey, let me help you be something, and have a story of somebody that that's maybe exceeded their expectations more than they'd ever dreamt possible, and then come back and say, hey, you know what, Johnny, it's because you were there and you helped me with your energy? Because I have to believe there's probably a ton of those people out there.
man, I have a few. One most recent comes to mind. It was, matter of fact, it was my very first coaching client, and I thought, for the longest time, I didn't want to even offer it to somebody because I felt inadequate. I felt not good enough. I was like, man, I just went and got certified and I invested all this money and I'm not doing anything with it. And my coach basically said, hey, just go out and do it. Do it afraid. So what if nobody signs up? But the when you start doing things that you're not afraid to do, pretty certain soon enough, the death of fear will be gone. And so I like what Ziglar always says, the world will tell you that if it's worth doing right. But Ziglar always said that if it's worth doing poorly until you learn to do it better. But it's that start that stops most people because they don't have it down right. And it was definitely stopping me. I didn't feel like I had the whole coaching program down right. I didn't feel like I had good enough success to go out and teach somebody. And again, just being transparent, when I went out and I did it afraid, and matter of fact, I started a Facebook post on Friday called Faith Your Fears Friday. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But I started faithing, not facing, I started faithing my fears. And it almost sounds like you have a little bit of a lisp, right? I got that from Mike Tyson when he says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. But I took it as faith. And when you have a plan, when you are faithing it, not faking it, not facing it, but when you're faithing your fears, that which you're scared to do, that which you're right, that move, that decision, that phone call, that door knock, whatever it is that you're afraid to do it afraid. So what you bomb it the first time? So what you screw up the second time? So what you mess it up the third time? The fourth and the fifth time and the sixth time, it gets better, it gets easier. And it's not that it gets easier, right? You actually get better. And Jim Rohn always said that, in order for things to change, you have to be willing to change. In order for things to get better, you have to be willing to get better. So there's so much of that caught up in there. But when I started faithing my fears, and I went out, did this presentation, one person, Chuck, one person raised their hand and said, I want to do it. So we started the coaching. We did the initial call to make sure it was a good fit, because I don't want to just take your money. It was a great fit. Their problem or their challenge was that they had this ceiling that they were hitting, and they could not get past $150,000 a year. Chuck, I hadn't made $150,000 a year in a long time because of job change, because of all this stuff. And I thought to myself, how in the world am I going to help them get over 150 when I myself haven't done it? So I went on ahead and said, you know what? We're going to do what we're told, and we're just going to move along, and we're just going to go through the process. And that's what I love about having a process, right? A system, really, because too often times, if we will just honor the process, and here's what I call one of those writer downers, right? If we will just honor the process, it's only a matter of time before the process will in turn honor us. So I went through the process, went through the coaching. She started implementing. She started saying how, wow, this is some great stuff. And I was really just kind of using my cheat sheet for the coaching. And all of a sudden, she started getting out of her comfort zone. She started getting encouraged. She started doing some of the ideas that we had together come up with. I wasn't solving her problem for her. I was just answering questions. Long story short, last year, she's well over, I want to say it was almost $300,000. She's now able to make. And the biggest deal wasn't even really the money that she was making, but more so the balanced success that she was after with family, and having gone through a divorce, and having she was having to fight with her ex because he had a lot of money, and then the kids wanted to go over there. And I said, well, why don't you give them something that money can't buy? Experiences. Do things with them that that money is not going to be an issue. So do photo. They started doing more experience type things, and all of a sudden she started having more life. She started getting out of her comfort zone, and you look at her now. She's on social media. She's doing this video. She's doing that. She's really enjoying life. And when you look back, she actually gave me a review on LinkedIn, and just said, if you haven't done the Choose to Win program with Johnny One, do it. That's my interpretation of it. But I was so excited to see that change in her life, because she was stuck. And sometimes when you're stuck, you feel like you're in a rut. And too often times for people, that rut, they stay in there so long that eventually that rut just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, to the point that it turns out to be their grave. And they never step out of that rut. They never were willing to take that step forward. They were never really able to, like Les Brown, give life to that idea, give life to that inkling, that itch that life will give you, and you're afraid to do it. But if you did it, and your life would be completely different. And that's where my Faith Your Fears Friday has led me to, is that whatever you're afraid to do it afraid. Whatever that, what is that thing, that flight or fight response that we have, right? Mm-hmm. Whenever that flight or fight response kicks in and says, don't do it, do it anyway. Do it afraid, do it scared. You know what? So what? Too many times we just won't have the courage. It's not confidence we're after, it's the courage to make that move, to make the decision, to make the phone call, to step outside of our comfort zone. People think, what if it doesn't work? But they don't ever stop to ask themselves, what if it does?
That's wow. I love that whole entire story right there, and the truth of the matter is, I have so much more respect for you than I did just like 2 minutes ago, because you literally just admitted, hey, I told somebody that I didn't do what I was going to teach them to do, and I didn't feel qualified. To me, that's a big thing. And there are a lot of people in this world that do that without letting people know on the front end. I've never done what I'm claiming I'm going to be able to show you how to do. But for you to do that, and then number two, how inspiring it is that your first person that had faith in you, you guys did it together, really. You're her biggest success story, and she's your biggest success story, together as one. And I mean, if you don't help another human being on this planet, that right there is an amazing story. And I'm sure that that's not going to be the case. That's probably going to be, the first of millions, hopefully for you. But wow.
Man, I am looking for people to help out. I had lunch with somebody that called me today and said, "Hey, can we just buy you lunch?" And they just wanted to sit down and pick my brain. I'm like, I don't have my shirt on. I'm down for tacos any day. Let's go, baby. But I pray and I say, Lord, lead me to somebody that's hungry. Lead me to some, and I'm no longer afraid of the people that get put in my path. We're about to find out. It was John Maxwell, who was a good friend of the Ziglar family, that said that every single person you meet has the potential to teach you something, or you have the potential to teach them something. And the fun part is figuring out what it is.
That is the fun part. And John Maxwell's an awesome guy. I got to have lunch with him in Orlando like 2 years ago. Clint and Leanne were there with me as well. It was awesome. So he's another one that we really love to follow and do, go through those things. But man, I'm just so excited for you because I see so much that's just really getting started. Just a couple years into this thing, you're gonna continue to go for hopefully forever. Let me ask you this. At any point in your life, do you see there being a change where you no longer do your day job and you go and you just help people full time with your Clark Kent, your Clark Kent?
Man, I tell you, maybe, I don't know. I have fun doing both sides. Right now, my mortgage business is the one that kind of funds everything. And I've got a handful, well, less than a handful of clients that I'm personally coaching one-on-one nights and weekends. And I go out and I tell people, my calendar is such, right? It's that my inventory is my calendar because I only have X amount of hours per day, right? We all have those same, the same hours, the same 24 hours a day, the same, minutes every day that everybody else has. It's what you do with those minutes that really carries the most weight. And so nobody really has a monopoly on this. Everybody at some point or another is going to die, right? The sad part is not everybody truly lives. And when you really enjoy to have that balanced success in what you do day in and day out, it's not really work. They say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I kind of challenge that a little bit because I tell people, love what you do so much that you'd be willing to do it for free, right? Do it so well that people will pay you for it. And if you don't need the money, let me know. I've got several nonprofits that we can donate that money to so you can still feel good about yourself, but do it. If you have the potential to earn money, do it.
Yep. That right there is a perfect, there should be a locker room everywhere that says, if you can do it, do it. I love that so much. Your energy, Johnny, you're just like, you're so full of life. And I can see why people are drawn to you as they are. When we were at the conference, I don't know if you noticed these things, but your crowd presence was amazing. Everybody was just completely dialed in on what you were saying, what you were doing the entire time. You looked so comfortable up there. If this is something that you've relatively, just gotten into, how did you get so comfortable being up on stage like that? Is that something you've done for a long time in your life, or is that just another one of those do it when you're scared type moments?
No, not even close, man. So I was used to doing things one-on-one, right? Taking my salesperson, sitting them down in front of me and explaining to them the process and the system, right? Because the system, and people say don't use acrostics, but I learned that from Mr. Ziglar. He always thought it was easiest to remember an acrostic, an acronym, right? And that system just stands for saves you stress, time, energy, and money. Saves you stress, time, system. I made it plural and added an S on the end of that to add sanity, right? Because if you do things over and over again, expecting different results, don't do that. But when you have that system, when you have that process, it's like, I love to cook. I love to cook tacos. I love to cook quesadillas, burritos, all that stuff. That's probably one of my issues right now, right? And I probably make too much of those, But what happens is once you know that recipe, you can go out and make your own plate. You can go out and make your own food. The problem with it too often times, let's just take a quesadilla, right? You cut it up into 4 sections, or if you make the round one, like a pizza, right? A pie. A lot of people operate off of the scarcity mentality that says, hey, there's not enough for everybody. So you got to hurry up and get yours before there's no more. But those people like you and I and the couples and the people that were in Codes and all those that were at that conference, the East Texas Growth Conference, they operate off of the abundance mindset that simply says, if you run out, we'll just go make some more. We'll just go make us another quesadilla. We'll go make us some more tacos. You get a taco, you get a taco. everybody getting a taco up in here.
Yeah, I can definitely support everybody getting a taco. I know last time I went to Ruby's over there in Tyler, I ate 13 of them. Don't tell anybody 13. I said that, but yeah, I lost like 90 pounds though, so I needed to gain a couple of them back, and I gained it back, very happily over there at Ruby's.
Give me your secret, because that's my next goal right there. And my goal for the next East Texas Growth Conference is to just be completely a different person on stage.
Okay, so let me, if you don't mind getting like, I don't want to ask anything too personal, but
no,
what's your specific goal for the next time you're there? When you say a completely different person, what's that look like?
I mean, I want to. My goal is to have lost at least 80 pounds. You couldn't really see it because the video didn't capture it that they took, but I wasn't as tall as I sounded, right?
I love it.
But I recently heard a guy named Gary Brecka talk, and I ordered his blood work. I did everything. Matter of fact, I had my consultation with his PA yesterday. And so we're implementing some things that I've been man, if there's a shake, if there's a potion, if there's a lotion, if there's a peel, if there's a program, I've done it. And I'm still not as tall as I sound. So that hasn't changed. And so in order for things to change, we have to be willing to change. So this time I dropped some money. I dropped some good money. And Gary Breck is not cheap, but he did my blood work. He did everything. I've got my results back. They did my labs. I went and got my physical. And I'm waiting for them to send me my outline of what I should do, what I should eat, what I should stay away from, what I should start doing, what I need to keep doing, what I need to stop doing. And hopefully that's going to get me jump started, because I've done it before where I lost a lot of weight. I went, I'm not keto. What's that weird one where you don't eat any animal? Vegan. I went vegan. I did CrossFit, and man, I lost 50, 60 pounds. But it was so hard. It was so hard for me to maintain that lifestyle because it had happened so fast, so quick. And so I wasn't able to maintain that. And so it took a while. It probably took 3 or 4 years to slowly have all that weight packed back on. And then the bad part was, not only did I get all the way back, but I gained more than I had what I was originally at. And it just seems that now with age, it's not as easy to get it off as it was to put it back on.
It's not. And I'll tell you my story real quick, okay? Because it's exactly like yours. Leanne and Clint did a conference. It was in 2021, 2 years ago, 2.5, whatever. And I was going to be one of the speakers, just like you at this East Texas Growth Conference. Well, what happened with me is we had to have the headshots done. And I started getting really upset at my camera guy because I'm like, dude, you're getting the wrong angle every freaking time. And he's like, I go all the way around. There's no right angle. And I start looking at the picture and it's like, oh man, this does not look like me at all. And I did that day. I was committed. I said, okay, I'm not going to go to the gym and start doing all this stuff right off the bat. People get discouraged when they try too much too fast, right?
Absolutely.
And I've been a victim of that many times in my life. Like you, I've lost and gained and lost and gained and gained and not lost and all those good things. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start slow. I worked with a trainer years ago, and he told me the key to burning fat is to get to like 65% of your max heart rate and just maintain that over a period of time rather than running and, killing yourself and feeling your heart burn out.
Yeah.
Nice and calm and across the board. Right. So I started walking. I just started walking every night. I would go out and I'd just go for a walk around the neighborhood. I'd do it a couple times. Then I'd go to the park, and I just went to the park this morning at 8 o'clock, and I did a nice morning walk over there, got a video with some deer. But I started doing that, and it was like, okay, I could slowly see the progress. The people that are around you don't notice it as often because they're with you all the time. But when we'd go places that I hadn't seen folks for a while, they're like, whoa, what in the world's going on? Are you okay? And, because people automatically assume you're sick because who in this world actually takes care of themselves, right? So I started losing the weight, and I did I'm about 90 pounds I lost, and I started putting it back on in muscle. I go to the gym every day, pretty much like 5-6 days a week. I get up at 3 a.m. and I do my routine.
90 pounds, Chuck?
Yes, sir. And I'll show you a picture of it. I'll DM you a picture of myself before and after because it's insane. I can't even put the videos from 3 years ago up on Facebook because I'm embarrassed. And it's like, it's funny you mentioned Gary Brecka, a gentleman that was on the podcast this week. Actually, David Carroll is a marketer based over in Minnesota. We were talking about the very same thing with Gary Brecka. And his was because hot saunas and cold plunges. So it's kind of interesting that, I hope that that's not on your Gary Brecka to-do list there, because that's what I said. It does sound fun at all. Those guys over in East Texas at ASAP Roofing, Joseph and a couple of his guys, man, they go out there. It was 11 degrees outside. They had ice in a thing, and they filled it with water, and they all jumped in, and they were sitting in there videotaping themselves. And I thought, I don't know about all that. I don't like getting in a swimming pool, much less a pool of ice in sub-zero degrees. But the thought process behind it, I guess, is it releases some kind of proteins from your kidneys or your liver. I don't remember. Maybe it's your liver. It releases a protein that repairs your body, builds up your muscle. It's the most powerful protein. So Gary Brecka is very far-reaching, and it's kind of ironic that I'd never heard of the guy until this week, and both of my guests are tied together through that. So that's pretty amazing. I think you're going to be very successful. If you ever need any kind of, you're an upbeat kind of positive guy, but if you ever feel down about it, let me know. Because one thing I'm trying to do is trying to help my friends out as well. I've got several that have called me up and said, hey, I'm inspired by what you're doing. I need to do it too. And I've got an accountability group that literally one of my friends texts me at 4:00 every morning. He's standing at the Planet Fitness in Wisconsin, and I always have to make sure I get the picture. I'm here at the one in San Antonio. If I'm not there, I have to apologize because I let down the agreement there. But I would say best of luck, but it's not luck. It's just being committed to it. You're committed to it.
It's
what
a discipline. Yeah, it's a discipline, and that's the thing is, I'm in the 8 key areas in the Choose to Win program that we're talking about, right? There are 7 key areas that Tom Ziglar talks about it, right? Mental, physical, spiritual, financially, family, personal, career. I added an 8th area of your life, and that was community, because community was so important to me, because it was the community, the Hispanic community specifically, that I started to really help out. And all of a sudden, I'm living a life that I never thought I could live, that my parents never probably thought I could live. And it's all because of the community around me. So it's kind of my way of giving back to a community that helped me do and attain so much. And I don't want that to go unrewarded. And so I want to help as many of them as I can. And just in the entrepreneur workshop that we had here recently, talking about finances, yeah, we talked about bank loans, we talked about credit, but you know what subject that they really were drawn to? The mindset about money. And that kind of goes back to Dave Ramsey's thing, what he talks about, that if you don't tell your money where to go, if you're not disciplined with your money, pretty soon you're going to wonder where it went. It's just going to be gone. And so with the physical, Mr. Ziglar has a thing called the BAM, BAAM. It's called the block and a mailbox, where he needed to lose the weight, and he started making a jog around the block, and then the next week he ran the block and a mailbox, and then a block and 2 mailboxes. And it's that little consistent persistency that I was talking about. And so even at the East Texas Growth Conference, I was given a speech, but really that speech was kind of a self-talk. It was kind of me trying to encourage myself, and the room just kind of happened to be the beneficiaries of the self-talk I was giving myself. And a lot of people came to me after that, and they resonated with it, because who doesn't want to get better? I mean, if the room was packed and we asked for people to, by show of hands, how many feel that they have some untapped potential? I mean, that's everybody. Deep down inside themselves, they know that there's more. And I think that's people's greatest regret in life, is that they know that they didn't do all they could do with all they've been given. And so I want to do that right now. That's my goal, is to do all I can. That's the grand adventure of life, right? To do all you can with what you've been given, and start now. Do what you can with what you got where you're at, and start it now. Who cares if you don't think you can, or if you don't think you can't, right? You're both right. So just do it. Just pick one and go.
It's that simple, man. If it was only that simple, right?
Yeah. I won't tell you it's easy, but it is simple.
Yeah, it's that first step, and the first step's the hardest
Absolutely.
one. You'll never get to where you're going if you don't open the door, if you don't take that first step down the first stair, or whatever it is. And I'm totally confident that you, my friend, are going to weigh 80 pounds less when I see you at the East Texas Growth Conference next year. That's 1 year, okay? 80
Absolutely.
pounds. So you don't have to, you can do the math. You're good at math. You're a numbers guy, right? You know exactly what you need to do and to break it down. And it's very doable. It's actually going to be fun for you. And at the end of the 80th pound, you're going to say, you know what? I can't believe that's it. You're going to go, you'll lose 100. My goal was 25 and I got to 90, and it was just like,
what?
Yeah, I ran a half marathon last year in October. And at the beginning of the year, I couldn't run from I couldn't run around the block, much less the block in a mailbox. I couldn't even run to my mailbox. And it's like, I did a half marathon. I started doing some 10-mile run. Well, it was kind of stupid at my age, but I proved something to myself that I never wanted to be able to prove to myself. And I can run a half marathon. And I did it at 3:00 in the morning in College Station, Texas, with nobody around, but I know I did it. So
yeah,
that's one of those things. And it's a personal journey, but you're also going to find as you go, more and more people are going to be inspired by what you're doing, because you put yourself out there, you show the world, hey, I'm putting in this effort, I'm doing what I need to do. You're going to be stunned at the amount of people that come up to you down the road and say, Johnny, dude, like, I was getting ready to have a cheeseburger and I saw you on Keepin It Rio. And it was like, you know what? I decided I was going to do it too. And just because of that, or because I saw you say something about it and I saw you were doing it and watched your progress, I lost 100 pounds. Or, my wife and I are on a fitness journey together and it's making our marriage better. Just stuff like that's going to continue to happen for you. I'm sure it happens for you all the time already, just because of your personality, but it's people that you don't even know are watching, that you're inspiring in crazy amounts of everything in life. People are wanting to do what you're doing because you're doing it right. And you're showing them this can be a lot of fun if you choose to have fun. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's really all it is. And for me, fun, that's the name of my coaching program, is Phenomenal Coaching, FUN. And that's another acrostic for finding your niche. You are finding your niche. And so once you find your niche, or your purpose, or your calling, or whatever you want to call it, right? I call it the fun zone, right? So once you find your fun zone and what it is and why is it that you're doing what it is that you're doing, all of a sudden the how, I'll tell you, the how is none of your business. Don't focus on the how, and the what doesn't matter. Why do you do what you do? You asked me earlier and I kind of went off on a little rabbit trail, but when I did my training one-on-one, I knew that I was going to start doing it in public. And public speaking is probably one of the biggest fears anybody has. So I went and I joined my local Toastmasters club. Google them, Toastmasters International, or Toastmasters.org, and find a club near you. Put in your zip code, and you'll find a club that's local, supportive, and they understand what it is that you're trying to do. Even if you're just in sales and your presentation is going to be to one person, take a public speaking course with Toastmasters. And they showed me how to not just communicate, but how to connect. And when you connect with your audience, and that's exactly what you noticed, is that I was really more interested in connecting with my audience than I was communicating, because the words that you're saying is probably the least amount of communication that you're doing. The body language, the tone and the inflection, the pauses. I've had to implement those planned pauses. And what I do when I implement that planned pause, I look and I kind of scan the room And you're right. Everybody was either, they weren't even taking notes. They were, that song, All Eyes on Me. They were like, wow, what's going on? This is different. And that's all I wanted to do. If and when I go out and I do a public speech, I'm really after one person. And if I can make a difference in that one person's life, anything over that is a bonus.
Absolutely. What a wonderful way of looking at life in general, man. You're absolutely inspirational. I'm glad that I was able to meet you, and hopefully we could be friends for life, because I would certainly love that.
Oh,
We're
we will,
coming up.
man.
We will. There's no doubt. We're coming up here on the little window that I put in, which is an hour. And I usually start to wind it down here at about the 50-minute mark.
Sure.
I like to ask a couple of final questions before we go. The most important one, I think, today would be people that want to follow you. I think we should do more to get your word out to as many people as we can. And I have a vehicle here that's pretty decent. I've got a decent crowd that watches. I have 13 fans in Nigeria, as a matter of fact. So Facebook is cool with their analytics. I don't know if those are all like VPNs or whatever, but it shows that, I'm a worldwide phenomenon with this podcast.
Yes.
If people want to follow Johnny on his journey and they want to be inspired and they just want to have a positive guy in their life, what's the best way that they can follow, make contact? Whatever you allow. Obviously, I don't want you giving out your cell phone number or anything like that, but what's the best way to get a hold of you and to join along with the journey?
Man, I'm glad you asked, because I'm right now in the process of trying to brand everything. And I think I'm going to go with the Johnny Juan 1. Right now, Insta is at Johnny Juan 1, JohnnyJuan, and the number 1. My Facebook is Johnny Ortiz. My LinkedIn is Juan Ortiz. My official name is Juan Ortiz. My friends grew up calling me Johnny. And then in 2007, one of my finance managers merged it to turn it into Johnny Juan. And that persona was kind of born. And I've kind of just adopted it and run with it. And Johnny Juan is it. And so I'll probably brand it all to that and make sure that it's not taken, and see what's out there as far as a Facebook page is done. My coaching, it's going to all be tied to that, because your past, my past, everybody's past is important, right? A lot of people don't like to focus on the past because of the negative connotations and the memories and that type of stuff. But when you think about your past, our past allowed us to cross paths at that specific time, right? And so your past is important, but Ziglar always says that it's not near as important as how you see your future, right? Where you're going. And once you start to change your thoughts, and once you start to change the way you see your future, all of a sudden, man, your life changes for the better. Mine right now, mentally, spiritually, is solid. I'm just having to work on that physical part of it, right? And if I'm going to be doing what I'm going to be doing for a long period of time, I've got to be able to have the vehicle to be able to keep me there. I don't want to shortcut it by not taking care of the one vehicle that God's given me.
Absolutely. I went from a minivan to a small compact car, and I think it's going to be an amazing transformation. I can't wait to watch that and cheer you along. That's one thing I always try to do, is be very supportive, because I know how hard it is. And I know that there's going to be days that you're going to get down and you're not going to feel like doing it. But then Jesse Itzler, I don't know if you're familiar with Jesse Itzler or not, but if you're not, he's a very good, he's a very interesting person. One day I'll talk to him if I can ever get to the elite level. But he was talking, he had David Goggins come into his house and like live with him for a month and teach him all this crazy stuff. And then he went and lived with monks for a month, but one thing that I got from Jesse Itzler, I took one of his courses, and he something he said just always stuck with me, and it's helped me every single day since. If you're thinking about not doing something, be honest with yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I going to be upset with myself tomorrow if I choose not to do this today? Ooh. And there's been days where I've gotten up, Johnny, I'm not even lying about this. I lived in College Station, Texas. I got up more than once after 11:30 in the evening, and I went out and I ran 5K because I didn't do it during the first 23 and a half hours of my day. And I realized if I went past 12 without initiating that deal, I was going to feel like garbage the next day because I didn't do it. So That's my big thing. I always get this little goofy guy, Jesse Itzler, over here, and he's like, come on, bro, you're going to be mad if you don't do it. And I just live with that. If I don't think I'm going to be mad, then I won't freak out about it, but I look myself very sincerely in the eye and I say, dude, if you don't do that, what's your excuse? You were just laying here. You were just on the couch. You didn't want to do it and you made the poor choice. So always keep that in mind. If you are going to be mad about it tomorrow, you better just get up and do it. And you'll be shocked at how the results just happen when you actually just get up and do it.
You know what? That makes sense, because in the mental side of the spoke, when I'm coaching, we always talk about how we as individuals always overestimate what can be done in a short period of time, but we grossly underestimate what could be done over an extended period of time. And so that's the attitude I'm taking on this physical journey.
Just absolutely, my friend. Yep, baby steps is what it is. And I love going on Planet Fitness. So this is my favorite thing to do is I go to the Planet Fitness support group on Facebook. I'm in roofing groups, right? And there's nothing worse than roofing groups in Facebook. If you want to see hatred and animosity, and I've seen people threatening to, do things to other people's families. I've seen terrible, terrible, terrible things. Roofing's horrible. But there's this other side of the world where it's like, not everybody's this way. And I go to the Planet Fitness and I don't know any of these people, and there's no more supportive group anywhere. So even if you don't go to Planet Fitness, Johnny, join that group, man, because everybody in there is going to be encouraging to you. They're going to tell you how awesome you are. And that's what it is. You need someone just every once in a while to pat you on the back. Even if you don't feel like you do, it'll change your day when someone says, man, you're doing awesome. I'm proud of you. And that's going to be you, my friend. So we're down to the last maybe 3.5 minutes or so. Tell me, in 3.5 minutes, you've got the floor, my friend. What's your words of wisdom, your brilliance to end this episode number 107 of Keeping It Rio? And thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Man, first of all, hey, thanks for having me out. Thanks for having me on this thing. I've never done this, but I was already thinking about doing a podcast, and then you invited me, and I've been looking some stuff up. So I'm definitely going to be picking your brain on how to do that, because I think I really do feel I have a message that the world needs to hear, and it's carrying on that legacy of Mr. Zig Ziglar, and his whole life could be traced back down to one comment or one quote, so to speak. I mean, he built his entire career off of the idea and the premise and the principle that says you can have everything, Chuck. You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And when you dissect that down, what do other people want? Other people want to be happy. Other people want to be healthy. They want to be, unless you're like some roofers and some real estate agents, they want to be reasonably prosperous, right? Some people want to be unreasonably prosperous, but they want to feel secure. They want to be happy. I mean, they want to have healthy relationships, good family friendships. They want to have peace of mind, right? They want to have hope in the future, and they want to love and be loved. And if you can, some way, shape, or form, take care of those 9 things that people want in those 8 key areas in people's lives, all of a sudden, it's not you're not working for a job anymore. You're not working for a paycheck. You're working for a dream. And I love that Clint talked about that dream, because we have another talk that we do called dream alignment. And when you're dreaming a dream, it's like that bow and arrow. Sometimes you get pulled back, right? You get that setback, but that setback is just a setup that it's going to launch you forward. It's going to propel you forward at a much rapid speed to gain the life that you really want to do. Because just like your GPS phone, when you want to go anywhere, you have to answer those 2 questions. Where are you? Where do you want to go? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know where to go. And even worse than that, a lot of people don't know where they are. But if you can answer those 2 questions, GPS will give you 3 routes: the long route, the short route, and the fastest route. And the fastest route is usually the toll. And that's what I feel coaching does. And so I want to be able to reach as many people as I can. And if we can shorten their learning curve to have the success and have the balanced success that they want in this life, to prepare us for that one to come, and we'll talk about that one some other day. But I want to be able to do that, not just for me, but for my family, for people that are watching this. Guess what? A better day is coming. Failure is not a person, it's an event. Yesterday really did end last night. Today is a new day. And what are you going to do with the day that's been given to you?
Man, I don't think any more words of wisdom could have been stated any better than that, Johnny. I appreciate you so much for your time today being here on Keeping It Rio. Thank you to everybody who watches this. Please share this episode because we'd like for as many people as possible to see this man and to follow his journey and to be inspired by him. So next year, this is my promise. Okay. My goal is to be a speaker at the East Texas Growth Conference. I got to speak this year, but it was kind of like an unofficial kind of thing. I want to have a facial. I need retribution for my headshot from the previous conference. You and I are going to be there. You're going to weigh 80 pounds less. I'm going to be a speaker, and we're going to go on your podcast after that, and we're going to talk about our experience just like we did today on mine. So if you agree to that, then let's make this deal, and let's encourage each other and make it happen. There you go. And this is recorded, virtual, so everybody in the world's going to see it. All right, my man. I'm going to go ahead and end the episode real quick here. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you on the next episode of Keeping It Rio.